Hello everyone, welcome to MeroSiksha. So we have another content and it's transformation of sentences. So by looking at the word transformation, you might have already guessed what are we going to study. So yes, we are going to talk about how are we supposed to change or how are we supposed to transform the sentences from one particular idea to the another. And in order to do that, we are to be very watchful about the rules and the regulations that are very much essential. So now, what exactly is a transformation of a sentence then? The transformation of sentence is all about change. So we change its form, that is the form of the sentences without alteration in its sense. So we transform sentences, that is we change the form of a sentence, but we are not supposed to change the meaning or we are not supposed to change the sense of that particular essence must not be eliminated. Essence must be within the sentence. We are just supposed to change the form only. So why is this particular knowledge of sentence transformation important and why is it necessary? Why are we to have this idea? Because if we have this particular idea, it helps us in expand our usage skill. So in English, whenever we are writing in a written form, no teacher asks you to write or present your sentence in a one particular pattern, right? They ask you to present in a various sentences. They ask you to inculcate number of sentence structures, right? So if you have a knowledge of a sentence transformation, what you do, you will have an ability to use or change that one particular sentence into different other forms without the alteration in the meaning. So it will be expanding your usage skills, and also you will have ability to present a sentence in multiple ways. So it expands your user skill, and as you have an expansion of the user skill, you will have the idea, you will have a presentation of a sentence in a multiple ways, but you will not be actually changing the meaning of it. So that's the something that you must have. So similarly, when we are talk about the sentences can be classified into generally three types. That's the affirmative one, negative, and the interrogative sentence. Now let us talk about the points that are to be remembered when we are to transform the sentences. The first thing is, if a sentence does not have words like no, not, never, if we do not have these in it, then those words should be included in a sentence during the transformation. So whenever we are transforming the sentence, we are to include those words, no, not, never. For example, we have the affirmative sentence over here, and that reads, my sister lives with my parents. And as we are to transform this into the negative form, what are we supposed to do? We are to add either no, not, or never, being based on the subject or the verb we have been provided. So here we'll be adding my sister. As we have the verb 5 over here, we use the auxiliary verb does, and then as we are changing into a negative form, we'll be adding not over here, and then the verb, and then the rest of the sentence. Okay, this is how it works. So while changing, you should be very watchful about the subject and the verb, and how are you supposed to use the auxiliary verb as well, what sort of auxiliary verb you are to use as well. So next, point number 2, to change sentences from affirmative to negative or to interrogative and the vice versa, you need auxiliary verb. So the presence of auxiliary verb is very must. For example, here as well, in our affirmative sentence, we had only one particular main verb, but while changing into a negative, we added the auxiliary verb as well. Similarly, whenever you are transforming sentence, whether it's in a negative form or the interrogative form or any other forms, you must need auxiliary verb. So auxiliary verb is the must. So and how are we supposed to know which auxiliary verb to use? We will be looking at the verbs that has been used in a main sentence. So moving on to the next point, that's point number 3. So we add negative word not to change into negative. So when we are to change into negative, make sure that you will be adding this not, and auxiliary verb is always added before the subject to change into interrogative. So whenever we are changing a sentence into interrogative form, you will be always be adding auxiliary verb, but that auxiliary verb must be presented before the subject. We are not presenting auxiliary verb after the subject, but rather in the case of interrogative form, we are placing auxiliary verb before the subject. So question that begins with the auxiliary verb are always yes or no question. And also remember, if the question begins with the auxiliary verb, they fall under the category of yes or no. For example, we have here Anusha agrees with me in affirmative form. So this agrees falls under the category of verb 5, right? So now it's Anusha over here, Anusha. So now what will be the auxiliary verb we will be keeping when are we to change into negative? It's does. So as we are changing into negative, we'll be adding this not as well. So we over here added Anusha does not agree with me. So next thing is, while changing this particular sentence into the interrogative form, we'll be adding auxiliary verb does over here. So why does? Because here we have the verb 5 and the auxiliary form whenever we have the question interrogation of this verb 5 would be does, and then we will be placing this auxiliary verb before the subject Anusha. So here as per this rule, and then we will be writing the rest of the sentence. So does Anusha agree with me, and then do not forget to write question mark at the end. So moving on, point number 4. So in the absence of auxiliary verb, we take help of do verb. So if we do not have auxiliary verb in our sentence, we will be taking help of the do verbs. So here, for example, we have the affirmative sentence that reads he ate few mangoes. So whenever you are changing into either the negative form or the interrogative form, you should be very watchful about the tense that has been used. So until and unless you are able to recognize in which tense the verb has been included in a sentence, you will not be able to transform the sentence in an appropriate way. So here we have the tense verb 2 form, verb 2 of eat. So he ate few mangoes. Now whenever we are to change into negative form, what would be the verb 2 form? If we have the verb 2, that is past tense, what would be the do verb when we are to mention it into a past form? That of course did. And as we are to change into negative form, you will be writing did not, or the contracted form, that's didn't. So he didn't ate many mangoes. So now whenever we are to change into the interrogative form, again we should not be forgetting the question mark, and as this particular verb is in a past form, we will be writing the auxiliary verb did before the subject he, and then we'll be writing the interrogative sentence. So moving on, so here do is used in verb 1. If you have the verb, if you have the tense, if you have the verb 1, that's the main form of verb, you will be using do. If you have verb 2, that's a past tense, you will be using did, as we did over here. So if you have verb 5, then you will be using does. So moving on, there are other ideas as well that we should be very watchful about. So I might have discussed this in our content negation before as well, but still. So we will be changing, if you have some in affirmative form, we will be using any in negative one. So if you have already, you will be using ate. If you have just, will be using lately. If you have a lot of, we will be transforming it into much or many, being based on the countable and the uncountable noun we have in our sentence. So if we are using always, you will be changing into never, and if you have either or, you will be changing into either nor. So either or always comes in order to present the positive idea, and either nor comes whenever we are to talk about the negative one. So thank you.